The market district of Aridinus Station smelled of ozone, engine grease, and roasted meats. Merchants called out their wares in a dozen languages, while smugglers and freighters moved in shadows. Ethan Hale moved through the crowd with his usual stride, steady, unhurried. He was a mechanic, one of the few humans on this rim-world station, and though most aliens found humans strange, they'd learned to respect him for his skill. Still, he preferred to keep to himself. That was when he noticed the child. She sat curled against a wall between two stalls, her small body shivering in a cloak far too thin for the station's cold vents. Her skin shimmered faintly with scales, the color of dusky violet, and her eyes, too large for her face, glowed faintly with hunger. She watched the food stalls the way a starving animal watches prey. Ethan slowed.
He knew the signs.
He'd been hungry himself once, back on Earth's old orbital slums. He recognized the hollow look, the way pride kept her from begging even as her stomach twisted.
He knelt down.
"Hey, kid." She flinched but didn't run. Her claws curled tight in her lap. "You hungry?" he asked. Her throat worked, but she gave the smallest nod. Ethan reached into his satchel, pulling out a wrapped ration bar. "Not the finest cuisine, but it'll fill your stomach." She hesitated, then snatched it and devoured it in trembling bites. The sight hit Ethan like a punch. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you, human." "What's your name?" he asked. "Leary." "All right, Leary. No need to thank me. Just eat slow next time, or you'll make yourself sick." She blinked up at him with wide eyes. For a moment, the station's noise faded. Then someone shouted and the spell broke. Leary scurried away into the alleys, vanishing like smoke. Days passed. Ethan fixed engines, hauled parts, lived quietly. But he couldn't shake the image of the hungry child. Then, one evening, he returned to his workshop to find her waiting at the door. And she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a tall woman with the same scaled skin, though hers gleamed in richer shades of violet and silver. Her posture was proud, but her eyes carried caution. Leary beamed. "Mama, this is him. The human who fed me." Ethan froze in the doorway. "Oh." The woman inclined her head. "I am Kaylin, Leary's mother. My daughter tells me you showed her kindness." "I just gave her food," Ethan said quickly. "Any decent person would've." "Not here," Kaylin replied softly. "On this station, kindness is rare." Her words carried weight. Ethan studied her more closely. The fine pattern of markings on her skin suggested noble blood, yet her cloak was worn, her hands calloused. Exiles, maybe. Refugees. Kaylin's gaze lingered on him, thoughtful. "You are human. One of the frontier kind." "That's me," he said with a wry smile. Leary tugged her mother's arm. "Mama, tell him what you said." Kaylin hesitated, then, to Ethan's utter bewilderment, said, "My daughter has decided you would make a worthy husband." Ethan nearly dropped the spanner in his hand. What?" The explanation came haltingly. Among Kaylin's people, gratitude was not offered lightly. A life saved, even by something as small as food, created a bond. Leary, in her child's innocence, had declared Ethan should be bound to them. And Kaylin, though clearly embarrassed, hadn't dismissed it. "You must forgive her boldness," Kaylin said, her voice formal. "But she is not wrong. Few would give freely here. You did." And her gaze softened. "We have need of strength, of allies, of someone who sees us as more than burdens." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "That doesn't mean marriage." Leary piped up. "But you're kind and strong, and Mama smiles when she looks at you." "Leary," Kaylin snapped, flushing darkly beneath her scales. Despite himself, Ethan laughed. The sound seemed to break something heavy in the air. "Look," he said, "I'm not in the market for whatever this is. But if you need shelter, you're welcome here. I've got spare bunks. No strings." Kaylin's shoulders relaxed, though her pride bristled. "We would repay you. Cook a meal once in a while," Ethan said. "I burn half of what I try anyway." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. Life changed after that. Kaylin and Leary settled into the workshop, turning it from a lonely mechanic's den into something warmer. Kaylin's cooking filled the air with spices Ethan had never known, and Leary's laughter echoed through the halls. Ethan found himself smiling more, talking more. He taught Leary how to polish tools, how to check engine seals, while Kaylin listened with quiet amusement. But station life was never safe. One night, thugs came knocking. A gang who controlled half the docks had learned Ethan was sheltering unwanted aliens. They demanded payment, or Kaylin and her daughter. Ethan stood his ground. "Not happening." The gang leader sneered. "You'd fight us for them? They're nothing." Ethan's fists clenched. "They're not nothing to me." The fight was brutal. Ethan took blows, blood on his lip, but he refused to yield. And when Kaylin joined, her claws flashing, the thugs fled into the night. Afterward, Ethan slumped against the wall, bruised but grinning. "Guess I should have asked if you could fight before I tried to play the hero." Kaylin knelt beside him, eyes fierce. "You are a fool."
"Yeah," he said.
"But I'm your fool, apparently." Her gaze lingered, then softened. Perhaps my daughter was right. Months turned into seasons. The workshop thrived, not just as a repair shop, but as a gathering place. Kaylin's cooking drew customers as much as Ethan's skill with engines. Leary grew stronger, brighter, her laughter a constant reminder of why they fought to survive. And slowly, what had begun as gratitude became something deeper. Kaylin no longer looked at Ethan with guarded eyes, but with warmth. Ethan, once content with solitude, found himself imagining a future not alone but with them. One evening, as they sat together after a long day, Kaylin spoke. "When Leary first declared you should be my husband, I was ashamed, embarrassed. But now," her hand brushed his. "Now I think perhaps she saw the truth before either of us." Ethan swallowed, his heart pounding. He'd fixed engines all his life, but this was something fragile, something precious. "I don't know if I'm what you need," he said quietly. Kaylin's eyes shone. "You are what we need. You are what I need." And when Leary burst in, grinning, "See, I told you so," they both laughed until tears ran down their faces. Years later, the name Hale's Workshop was known across Eridanus Station. Travelers came not just for repairs, but for food, for laughter, for shelter. And at the heart of it was the human who had once given a hungry child a single ration bar. Ethan often thought back to that moment. The small, trembling hand. The wide, hungry eyes. The simple act of sharing food. It had changed everything. The hungry alien child had come back with her mother. And in the end, she had given him more than he ever gave them. A family, a home, a love that no galaxy could take away.